Yeah, all right.
Okay, we're live. So, welcome everyone. I see a couple of people already in the chat. So, welcome to. I see
Oh,
Keith.
let me.
I see Mike. I see Aaron. So, at least those are the ones that I can see. So just now. Welcome to our new talk. We're talking to Daniel today. But before we go to Daniel, I'd like to introduce our new co-host, because I think a lot of people have been waiting for that. Um, and I think we have a couple of people in the chat who will be familiar with our new co-host. Um, so, co-host, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Molly. I was on with Peter, a couple of weeks ago, talking about healthcare, and he has very kindly asked me to be part of the channel. So here I am.
Here you are. So, Molly's going to be our new co-host for a couple of the talks that we're about to do. And so anyone who likes to leave a message or, well, leave a reply to what you think of our new co-host, do that after the talk in the comments. And we'll be looking forward to that. Our guest today is someone I've talked to before. Sadly, that conversation got lost entirely. So, first of all, my apologies to Daniel, because he already spent 2 hours talking. And, well, we'll have to do stuff all over again. Daniel, can you
Yeah,
introduce yourself shortly?
my name is Daniel Jones. I'm a Christian, and I'm here to discuss my reasons for Christianity with you guys, my faith. That's about it. I've never introduced myself before, so unless I was in court.
well, you're not in court, although I think we would make great judges, but who knows?
Well, it depends on what you
Um,
guys base your morality on, right? Okay, go ahead. Everybody introduce themselves now.
okay, so you said you were a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
You have been all your life?
No,
No.
if I was all my life, I wouldn't have spent 12 years in a federal penitentiary. No, I wasn't. I was an atheist, actually.
You were an atheist,
Yeah,
and so
I
what?
didn't believe in God.
What? And what convinced you that a God exists?
I died, and God held me in His hand
You
and
died, and
explained Himself as love. He said, "This is God. God is love."
Did you have
And
a physical death
death.
experience? Did you?
Yeah, they said I was dead from anywhere from seven up to 7 minutes. Of course, it wasn't 7 minutes, but from the time that I got shot in the back of the head, hit me, I got shot with a plastic bullet. I was in a fight, and the guy was fighting, hit me with a baseball bat, and the rest of it's a little embarrassing. I hit a mud puddle and drowned it, which to me is a ballet. I died in such an odd way. When they first told me I drowned, I thought they were lying. I knew. I mean, I started remembering what was going on. I'm telling you the story in hindsight now.
Mhm.
But um, when I saw the video, the guy shoot me in the back of the head. He was about five. He was maybe 5 feet from me, or even closer. It was a cop.
hmm
Yeah, there's
so, but you
more
said
into that. Huh?
you
Oh,
said
so anyway, because I was such against Christianity, like a lot of you guys, that was the only religion I ever attacked. Where I studied a bunch of other religions. We won't go into all that, but um, and I saw the absurdity in it. You know when you find truth, I mean, we all do. We have an instinct for truth. Am I correct in that?
So,
You
so your
agree?
decision to settle on Christianity as opposed to the other religions that you studied was based on the perception of truth.
It was very of truth. Yes, it was a very, because I know when I'm being lied to. I can tell when somebody lies to me instantly. I've always had that instinct, and a lot of times that's saved me in prison. Apart from the story I already told you, but but I know when somebody's lying to me. I can see instantly, and I've always been that way. Christianity, I went to it. I kept attacking it, and I kept asking myself, why am I constantly pursuing Christianity? Why ain't I attacking? Why ain't I arguing against Hinduism? Why ain't I arguing against Islam, especially in that environment? The last 2 years, somebody invited me to a Kairos, and the minute I got there, I felt the Holy Spirit.
So how did you know it was the Holy Spirit?
The only way I can explain it is every cell reacts. When you go in, your whole you feel on your body. I've had this only one other time, and it was when my daughter was healed through prayer in the Spirit. The pastor prayed in the tongue of angels, and there's a story behind that too. There's a testimony behind that we can go into another time. But God had to enlighten me to the truth at that time. And he didn't do that. He was 3,000 miles from the time where she was healed was in Washington State. That same prayer, and there's no way you can't mimic this prayer. It's not something that I've heard people falsely try to pray in tongues, and I've shot it down. In fact, most of that's down in South Texas. But this lady in Woodsboro, Texas, old lady came up out of nowhere. She was we were at the Dollar General, and I was getting stuff for my daughter. I had my daughter with me, and this old lady came up and she goes, "Sir, I don't normally do this, but can I ask you to pray with me?" This was in the middle of the Dollar General, and of course, I had tank top, and so the type that would be open to prayer. I didn't think. In fact, I ain't got a whole lot of bad stuff on. Anyway. So we prayed.
So this was before. I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
No,
was this before you converted to Christianity or after?
No, this was after. Oh,
Okay.
I kind of got ahead. Sorry about that. We were discussing my death, and then I was telling you the only other time my actual conversion when I went into Kairos. This was 2 years before I was getting out. Years before I was getting out. So 4 years I studied a bunch of different other religions, trying to go through the to find that truth. And read the Shakti Sutras. I've read just about. I read a lot. I had a lot of time to read. When I finally did read the Bible, I came to 1 Corinthians chapter 13, and where it says, "God, this is God. God is love." I saw that, I was like, "Wow, this is what I heard. This is the description I heard of God." And I'm not that type of over loving, mushy type person, anyway. So when I got that to me was profound.
So that statement stood out as.
Well, that's the only statement I heard when I was dead, huh?
That statement stood out as unique to you?
Yeah, when I finally read it, I was like, "Oh my God, that's what I had been repeating the story. I don't know why anybody, because I had repeated it to other Christians. I don't know why they never hit me to it, but yeah, I don't for that. I don't know why they should have, because that's my favorite scripture now.
So in all the other religions that you studied, there was no other encounter that talked about the love of a deity?
No, I didn't see any in I've read the Bhagavad Gita, I've read the Mahabharata, and I didn't see that in there. Mahabharata is about a whole big war between two families. There was no love there.
I see.
The Bhagavad Gita is a, man, I've kind of forgotten, now, but it's because it didn't stand out to me. But it's more of a story of peace and nowhere does it say so. That's one thing about Christianity is it doesn't play with the words. You don't have to. It's very direct in what it says, as opposed to the Bhagavad Gita, who goes into. He may have said, "Yeah, this is God. God is love," but he didn't say it in a way that I understood it.
Well, the Bible has been, effectively translated, innumerable times into the, English language alone. Do you think that the fact that the other texts that you were reading are not as commonly translated into English had anything to do with it?
That could be, but here's the thing with Christianity. If you look at what the story of Christianity from the New Testament on, we won't go into the Old Testament, although we will when we talk about the giants and the monsters. But anyway, you look at the book of the New Testament, and everything is above, it transcends time. Now you've heard that in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna transcends time, but the words of God actually do transcend time. You can't say today that the universe is made on the backs of turtles, but you can say God created light with sound and waters of a void waters. We don't know what that is. However, we've actually created sonoluminescence, which I'm sure that the scientists who did that got that idea from the Holy Bible, from the very first verse of Genesis. So, I mean, here you have a science as to how everything was created. Light set the boundaries of the universe. And everything from there on, God was very direct in how he created life. But he did. It's not a science textbook. He spoke like somebody who done it, who already knew the science behind it. He gave us what we needed to know, and we would find out the rest. In fact, science itself proves that there's a mindset, a mind behind everything, a mind behind creation.
Yeah, I still don't get it, because we're trailing off a little. You said you found God because you died and he held you in his hand and he explained. How did you know who it was, and how did you check if that was even real?
Well, here's the thing is if I was pronounced dead when they picked me up, that means, and I remember, even if I was laying that way in mud, which is the story, I was still aware. And I felt more awareness. I guess that's more, I felt more awareness than I've ever felt in my life. And in fact, it did change my life. I was not a decent person at all. I know. Huh?
I know, but what I don't get is I think you had some kind of brain injury, maybe, or at least were unconscious.
So that brain injury.
How did you define that what you saw was actually real? How did you rule out a hallucination, or maybe oxygen deprivation of the brain? How did you rule that out?
Because oxygen deprivation of the brain would be a breakdown. You would, I would have such an insight if my brain was starving of oxygen. Usually you starve of oxygen. In fact, my dad died from COPD, and you're done. There's no you have a little bit of mindset to keep you from being scared of death. I've heard every little I don't know where I was going with that. We'll go back to, okay, ask me another question.
Daniel, were you resuscitated like with CPR at the site?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not. I don't. I didn't really ask those questions, but because I was in prison. But yeah, I mean the 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 people that the medical staff are very good at that.
Yeah, I just wondered if it was at a situation. Do you know if it was where like paramedics revived you at the scene,
Well, it was
or
medical. It was prison staff.
okay?
I mean, it was medical. They were trained it by the. I mean, they were a lot of them were in the army, that type of stuff. So they knew how to. I mean, their description of me dying was believable.
Yeah, I certainly don't question that you had a traumatic event there. Do you accept the premise that as the brain undergoes trauma, that it can produce sensations and illusions that might not necessarily be reality?
Well, that was a lot of my that I had actually went through that. I didn't. I'm giving you a summary of my conversion, but I went through a whole lot of, well, it could be this, it could be that, but it wasn't as it was almost it was pale compared to the way I would normally. I used to spout that man created God so he didn't have to be scared of death, and I believed all that nonsense. But because we ain't never been scared of death, not entirely. If that was the case, we'd never fight wars. That would have been evolved out of us a long time ago.
Why would you think it would be evolved out of us?
Well, why wouldn't it? Wars destroy. Well, right now, we've developed a mind. So let's say evolution exists. We've developed a mind that will destroy ourselves. We could destroy the whole entire race, the Earth, right now through war. Why haven't we, as such high dynamic thinking people, just evolved right out of that? Will we
Evolved
ever
out of
evolve
killing
out
each
of war?
other?
Yeah, evolved out of killing each other. What's the importance of going to war? We're about to go to World War III. What's the importance of that?
Well, it's our biological imperative to ensure our own survival, and if we perceive a threat to that, then we're driven to deal with it so that we can continue to survive.
So we're under threat by North Korea, right?
Allegedly, yes.
Allegedly, yes. See, that's the thing, is we have a drive. We're built by a destructive nature. We've fallen. God explains that perfectly. The Bible explains that perfectly. How we fell from grace, and then all the other things that come along with falling from grace, with falling into sin.
So you attribute our tendency toward war as evidence that we aren't afraid to die?
As evidence we aren't. No, I mean, there's singularly, yes, I'm saying mankind didn't say, hey, let's create a God so we don't have to face dying all the time. That wouldn't have even been and we wouldn't even had time to come up with that thought. If we were living as cavemen, we would have never had time to come up with that thought.
Do you think it's possible that stories were told to explain things that weren't understood?
Oh yeah, there's been lots of evidence of that, but most of them come from. But if you look at the Bible, how did man in the Bronze Age know that light was something that had to be created? Did he say us? Light is different. Of course, light is different from darkness, but light is different. Light is much like this dresser over here, or this. Light is something that can be created. Where did we come up with that idea?
Are you talking about like
When God said, "Let there be light"?
Oh, okay. So you're not talking about the light in the universe. You're talking about our use of light?
Well, no, the light in the universe.
Okay. So you're.
I'm saying, how did we say light needed to be created. The very first thing that was created, which of course the Big Bang explains. and how did we know that? Huh?
Actually, it doesn't.
What doesn't?
Because it wasn't the first thing.
What was the first thing?
The first thing was an expansion.
I agree with you on that, but what? Huh?
First thing was an expansion. Light came a lot later.
Expansion came first. How do you know that? Is there evidence of this expansion?
Yes.
Because light expands the universe. Light keeps traveling, and light's the fastest thing traveling.
Light doesn't expand.
Well, we don't know what we don't know that for sure or not. We don't know that the universe is expanding.
We know that the universe. We know that the universe is expanding, and we also know that it came from a singularity. We can't get as close as what I would call point zero, but we're
was everything what was something eternal then?
We can't know, because for the universe that we live in, time and space started at the Big Bang, but that doesn't tell us anything about what's outside of the universe. There could be multiverses. That there's the cosmos, and we don't have a way of investigating the cosmos. We cannot go beyond
multiverses. Are you saying life is digital?
No. I could maybe throw out a theory, a hypothesis that's currently being discussed. In the universe, we have black holes. Black holes attract everything surrounding them and absorbs it. The power of a black hole is so vast that even light cannot escape it. So where does the matter go that goes into a black hole? There could be a possibility that every black hole is what is leading up to an entire new universe. What's leading up to an entirely new Big Bang somewhere else outside of our universe. But we don't have a way to investigate this. What we do know that the universe is expanding. There's a lot of evidence for that. First of all, we can measure it. We can measure stars, and we can see that they are moving apart.
But the moon is staying. But the moon is the same distance. The sun doesn't. It stays the same. Everything's expanding in one direction. Or
the moon isn't even in the same distance as it was last year. It's moving away.
I'm not going to argue that.
It's moving away from.
You're right on that. But that doesn't evidence that
the moon is actually moving away. I think 2 inches a year. I'm not entirely sure, but I think that was it. So the moon is moving away. So at some point we're going to lose the moon. It's not going to be in our lifetime, but we're going to lose the moon.
Well, now, go ahead.
Daniel, do you accept the creation stories as they're written in the Bible as truth?
Oh yeah, 100% truth.
Okay, because I know you were talking about the Big Bang.
I was saying the Big Bang is your guys' description, and I played with the Big Bang too. That was my big argument as an atheist too. Okay,
so you believe then that the universe is younger than accepted science would.
Oh yeah, it's a lot younger than scientists say it is.
Okay. So if those stories are literally correct, I know you wanted to talk about monsters, correct?
Or dinosaurs.
Or that's exactly what I'm kind of getting at here. If you're thinking that the universe is younger than we would believe, then is that what you're attributing dinosaurs to?
No, I attribute dinosaurs to hybrid between angels and animals and angels and humans. Angels and humans produce giants, which every culture in the world has stories of giants. Denmark, you ever been to Denmark?
I've been to Denmark, yes.
Have you ever went to that? I've never been there, but I think it's Jutland. Where they got those,
Jutland.
where they got those giant axes. What do you think? Who do you think made those, and who used them? These axes are twice as big as men standing right next to them.
Yes.
Okay, why did they make those axes? Did they make them just for fun because they didn't have anything else to do?
They made them as far as I know, as kind of a worship ornament.
Worship a giant axe.
They made it for their gods who
were giants.
So you're talking about like a humanoid giant versus like a reptilian giant.
No, the dinosaurs were products of animals and angels. And if you look, dinosaurs, we should be. Why did evolution? Hold on. I'm getting outside and talk while I'm eating. Why did evolution just stop making dinosaurs?
It didn't.
Decide that these great eating machines that were.
It didn't.
Perfect.
It didn't.
He didn't.
It didn't. No. Dinosaurs are alive today. I'm
talking about the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the alligators. If that was the case, they're the only ones that survived these. This big
no. Alligators are not dinosaurs.
Okay, well, give me an example of a dinosaur. Birds.
A chicken.
There have been mass die-offs on the Earth. You know, there's a cycle that goes through that species, you know, arise and become populous, and then there are mass die-offs. They actually think that there's a mass die-off currently in place. We do think that there was a catastrophic event that led to the demise of the bigger dinosaurs. But you think that they're evolutionary product, that they're a hybrid?
Yeah. And the reason why is I worked in the oil field, I've worked in construction, I've dug in the ground numerous times. I've never found a dinosaur bone. So they're not as numerous as everybody says. We should be finding dinosaur bones every time we dig in the ground. But we don't. We find more Native American burial sites in America than we do dinosaur bones.
Did you look in the right layer?
Did I look in the dinosaur park?
No, I said, did you look in the right layer?
Well, I don't know, but they should be all over. Why would they be in a certain layer?
Well,
because sediment was deposited over time,
all over
dinosaurs all over the world, and you won't find dinosaurs in sediment that was placed there in a time when there were no dinosaurs. So you digging somewhere would get you nowhere.
So they did all die at the same time. Even
have you ever been? Have you ever been anywhere near Glen Rose, Texas?
Yeah.
You can find fossils there just along the road. You can find fossils there pretty much everywhere.
No, I haven't been to Glen Rose, Texas. I've been around near it.
There are also very specific conditions under which fossilization will occur. Not necessarily every, creature that dies and is going to become a fossil.
Hey, you need water, right?
It's a lot of specific conditions that cause that preservation.
What about the water that the evidence of water once covering the whole earth? They found that in Egypt. They found it in the Grand Canyon. They found it everywhere.
Yes, just not all at the same time. That's the problem.
Well, we don't know what time. Nobody was there to see that. We might believe that.
We actually do know what time. So, but I'm a little bit more curious about what you think. We can do a follow up where you can ask us questions about what we think or what science has found. I'm a little bit more curious because you told me before we started this call that you have been studying giants and monsters. Can you tell me first where you studied and what kind of giants and monsters we're talking about?
Well, I've never studied. I mean, I've read other reports. I've seen pictures that aren't doctored. I know how to tell if something's doctored. A lot of these are old photos. The Smithsonian locked a lot of them away, where they found human skulls or humanoid skulls that were huge. The head was as big as the man sitting next to it, and this was taken in the 1920s, so it wasn't photoshopped.
The ones I've seen so far, all are photoshopped, and I actually know.
I'll show you some that weren't, because I know the ones you're talking about, and that was only 3 that they found were photoshopped.
One of the most famous amongst creationists is actually a guy I spoke to a long time ago when he was working on it, because I'm a Photoshop enthusiast as well, and so he was working on that, and I'm not sure exactly what the name of the site was. It was for a contest.
I think I know what you're talking about, because I refute everything. I didn't really.
I can look it up. That was the picture of the giant skull and a guy sitting next to it, trying to excavate it. So I actually know.
Yeah, I was giving you probably a bad example there. But let's go back to the axes. They made all these axes in the same place, because they found a lot of these axe heads in the same exact site. So they made all these axes for each god.
That I wouldn't know.
And we were too stupid to believe that.
I never dug into that entirely. I know that there are artifacts that are made by people worshipping the Viking gods, and they made weapons for their Viking gods, and those weapons are still around. The gods never picked them up. The gods never moved them. They just made them, and so that was it. But
well, I actually experimented with Asatru, Odinism. It was a foolish time. I'm more embarrassed by that. But
Daniel, what do you want to get across to us about this concept of monsters? And
well, the fact that the Bible talks about there were giants on earth. Okay, that's what did I say? That's that agree. Every other religion agrees with the fact that there were giants on earth, but the Bible tells you exactly how it happened. It doesn't just say, "Hey, God was a giant." And if you look at the spread of all religions, they came from the stories of the giants, from the giants introducing themselves as gods. Krishna, I can't think of now. I'm kind of I'm getting ahead of myself. But anyway, all these other religions that you hear about, they were stories to get to entice us away from the true story of God, the gospel.
I don't think that every religion,
everything in the Bible, from Genesis to Revelations, is connected. Everything, it's one connected story. There's nothing missing. You hear about Jesus in Isaiah, in many of the Old Testament books.
Well, let me jump
Go
in
ahead.
for a moment. I've read Harry Potter. If you read Harry Potter, there are clues in the first book that lead up to what happens in the last one. Um, uh,
But
a
nothing,
little
nothing.
little known fact is that the guy who played Professor Snape didn't want to play the part, and so he was told one piece of information no one knew, and that was that Professor Snape was actually a good guy that would be revealed in the very last book. And that's when he decided to take the part. So when it comes to consistency in a story, at least Harry Potter is more consistent than the Bible is.
No, that's not true.
Because the
And I'm going to
Bible,
say the Bible is the greatest.
that is true, because the Bible has several contradictions in it. So
No, those are misunderstood. But I haven't studied that, so I don't really study that real hard, because a lot of things I don't. There's a lot of books that aren't included in the Bible. That's the satanic, the elite who cut a lot of that stuff out to dumb us down.
Does that bother you?
Oh yeah, of course. But I know how to look over that. I read I read the book of Enoch. I read other books. I don't just I'm not one of those Christians like you've accused me of being a follower. I got to have something to someone to lead me or this that. That's not true at all. I'm the very last person that would follow anybody, and I've always that's been in my nature. So
well, I didn't
I go
actually
to
accuse.
church. I go to church. I do
didn't.
them a favor. That's how I look at it. I do them a favor. Well, I'm going as a Christian, ready to work. I'm not saying that in an arrogant way. I don't mean that in an arrogant way. But I don't look at it like they're saving me.
Well, what do you get out of it, Daniel? Sorry.
Huh?
What do you get out of church?
What do I get out of church? I find better friends than I made as a youth. I find I find there's opportunity there. There's opportunity for friendship I mean I don't know as far more just call it a companionship.
It's the social support system. I understand that.
Yeah. And we feed on companionship. All of us do. I mean, look at Facebook and this right here.
But if that's important, then I mean, you can find that everywhere. That you don't have to.
No doubt you can.
You don't have to go to a church. I know because I'm Dutch. You both are Americans. In the U.S., it's still a lot different than it is here, because church doesn't play a part in life and hasn't had for decades now. So we've shifted the companionship part and the coming together part.
But you still have a king, right?
To sports and to hobbies, and that's where people get together. Like-minded people get together and get their communities from. They don't get that from church anymore. So,
but you still have a king, right?
Yeah. For
king was established by the church. So you guys haven't gotten completely away from God.
We have gotten so far away from God that God doesn't play a role.
Then why don't you kick the king out? Has he done anything good for you?
In the royal family, it doesn't play a role in government. So
do you honor your king?
He's more considered.
Sounds like you do. You're thinking about it.
No, part of the most part of the country considers him just another citizen who represents us, and some of them want to abolish the royal family, want to get rid of the monarchy, which would lead to someone becoming a president, which is actually a lot more costly than having a royal family. So we just keep the royal family because it's nice and it's some kind of tradition. But the king, the king hasn't been king for long, just for a couple of years, and he's doing away with a lot of tradition and becoming more and more just a citizen and wants to be treated as such. So that's not that important. What I'm still getting from you is that everything you just mentioned is all related to the Bible, is all related to having a community, maybe having a safety net. I know that you have been in prison, so maybe being a Christian is what keeps you from going back to prison, what keeps you from crime. I don't know. You can tell us about
my morality is defined by Christianity, and that's a thing is where did you get this moral thought that stealing a guy's food or stealing a child's food is wrong, is evil?
Because it's hurting someone else.
So we're the only animals on Earth that think like that?
No.
No, other animals do. So a monkey will watch a child eat.
a lot of the great apes do that. Dogs.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. Dogs do not do that.
Dogs do that at some point, yes.
No, out of fear, and you can see it. Cats out of fear.
No,
they won't go attack a bigger dog for their food.
No, I mean, not steal. No, you mentioned not stealing food. Dogs do that. A lot of social
every animal on Earth does that.
All the social species share what they have, and they do that because that's their means of survival. And we are a social species, so that's where our morality started, and we got on from there. We are conscious of our surroundings, and at the moment some of the great apes are evolving, and some of them are now in the Stone Age. They use tools, they think, they make plans. So evolution hasn't stopped, and it hasn't stopped for all the great apes.
Before, when you were an
atheist, huh?
When you were an atheist, I know you had some issues with the law, but would you have considered yourself an amoral person?
Well, that's the thing is we have every single one of us has a trinity of perceptions inside of us. You agree with that?
What would you define as that trinity?
Okay, let's say I'm going to go rob this bank, and I do that, and this is I'm going to be, I could put people in danger. I didn't really come up with those thoughts, but other thoughts. I didn't want to go to prison. Woo, woo, woo. Okay, the other you've got three perceptions. You got one person telling you why you should do that. One perception telling you why you shouldn't do that. And then you have the third perception that's watching the conversation between the two. And I'm giving you a basic, I mean, I know I'm roughing it up a bit, but you see what I'm saying? Whenever you come with a major decision, do I divorce my baby's mother, or leave my baby's mother? You know, there's a whole bunch of different thoughts that come to
and you think that that's inherent to us, aside from religion? You think that it just exists within every human being?
Huh? Oh,
you think that
just exists? Yes, it's instilled in us. It's instilled in us. The watcher of this conversation, whenever you make a major decision, that's the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit ain't going to say, yeah, you should do this or you should do that. He's going to watch the decision, and then your soul is going to come up with them. Your mind is going to come up with the decision. I'm going to go ahead and rob this bank.
So I guess I just wanted you to tell me a little bit more. So when you identified as an atheist, would you have been okay with doing something like?
No, I wouldn't have done that.
So where would you say that morality came from, if you were identifying as an atheist?
That morality came from God. I never admitted that, but I would always ask myself, I never really even talked about God until except there was a couple times, but until I got to a prison and I met other Christians. And when I wanted to argue with somebody and not end up getting killed or killing somebody, I would go argue with the Christians. But there was times when I'd go home and I'd be like, dang, I'm talking about God more than these Christians are. I'm coming to them to talk about God. Of course, I'm contrary to God, but I always wondered, where does that desire come from? If God is nothing, do you believe in aliens or the Loch Ness monster? Do you believe in I can't think of nothing really. Do you argue Buddhism with people? Christianity draws you to it because Christianity is truth, and you know that you recognize you may not admit it, but you recognize it's truth. That's why you want to attack it so much. You have that the Holy Spirit is driving your mind to attack Christianity because somebody's going to be intelligent enough or eloquent enough, I mean, to introduce the gospel to you.
So back up just a bit for a second. So when you were making admittedly moral decisions before you accepted God, do you think God was guiding you against your will?
Well, I'm glad he did. I've seen people make worse decisions than I ever did. I started out robbing drug dealers. The only reason I robbed banks is because drug dealers was getting dangerous.
So if God is able to if God is able to guide people against their will, then why doesn't he?
Why doesn't he? Because he gives us free will. See, that's the thing, is you've got the Holy Spirit, you've got two sides of an equation. I don't know. You got two perceptions, that the Holy Spirit is observing. You have a decision to make. That's your soul making that decision. This is what I want to do. That's why your soul is on the line. Because if you continue to make decisions, you continue to make immoral decisions, well, you're not going to make it into heaven. You're going to make it outside the world that God created. And we know that wasn't we describe it as hell, but that's chaos.
But you say God doesn't do that. Does God gave us free will and he doesn't interfere with free will? That's not what the Bible says.
Well, no, that is what the Bible says.
No, it isn't. The Bible says, first of all, the Bible doesn't mention free will anywhere. There's not one verse that will mention or even describe free will. What the Bible does say is that God can interfere with free will. He did that with Pharaoh.
That's a description of free will right there. He's implying that, now he can do things to punish you for making them, but he still gave the Pharaoh. He gave the Pharaoh a decision.
No,
it's just
he wanted the Pharaoh to let the slaves go.
If he wanted to do that, he wouldn't have sent all. Go ahead.
But he hardened his heart, so he actively kept him from letting them go.
Well, now, okay, harden your heart. Let's look at because he didn't go into detail in that. He mentioned all the famines and etc. But harden your heart. The Bible also talks about a time when we'll be so confused, we'll be supernaturally confused. Satan will have such power to spin your mind that now, today, how many sexualities exist?
Sorry?
2. How many sexualities exist? Man and woman?
A lot more.
Oh, a lot more. You actually believe that?
Yes.
So the XY chromosome is nothing. That was just a story.
I'm actually at the moment talking to.
You're struggling now. You're trying to come up with a story to
wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm actually talking to one of my followers to do a show on that, because it isn't just male and female anymore. There are a lot more different genders.
I could, like a giraffe man. I could be a giraffe man if I wanted to
No,
be.
no.
Oh, I can't be that. What sexuality can I be if I don't want to be a man?
It's not what you think.
Can I change my chromosomes?
You cannot change your chromosomes, and you
Oh,
cannot
so my
change,
chromosomes are always going to stay on the man.
and you cannot change your gender either. It's what you're born with.
That's what I meant. I didn't mean sexuality. I meant gender. Let's go back.
Yes.
Okay, how many genders are there?
As I said, I don't know yet. I'm about to do a show, and Molly doesn't know.
But what does man say?
I'm going to invite Molly on that one as well, because that would be more in her in her field. So
what about those? Let's go with the scientist that says now there's 16 genders. What about that? Bill? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Do you accept that we have certain genetic information, and some of it is expressed things that we can see, you know, your eye color, that kind of thing, and certain genetic information is recessive, things that exist in your genome that you can't physically see, such as, you know, some people are carriers for certain genes that express disease. So certain people carry the gene for cystic fibrosis, not have the disease, and you would never know that they have that gene. Do you accept that that's...
Yeah, a lot of that comes from the foods we eat now.
Well, do you accept that that's the case, though?
I believe that those genes aren't what God created. Those genes are products of pollution.
Are genes in general?
Well, no, our cancer genes. There's no way evolution evolved with cancer. All that stuff came after we started breaking diets. We started eating cannibals. What do you call them? Shrimp, pork, all that stuff. And now we have all these infirmities where cancer came from. But when he forbid certain foods, he forbid it for a reason.
Well, okay, so going back to...
Go ahead.
Sorry, going back to genetic information, though, is that something that you accept, that that we carry genetic information that you may not be able to see, but it's still in our genome? And I'm not talking about disease here. I'm just talking in general, that, you know, you might, if you have brown eyes, you might carry a gene for blue eyes, and you would never know that you have it. Right?
Yeah, I'm not that, to be honest with you, gene, like that type, I'm not real versed.
No, that's fine. I just had a point regarding gender. That's all. I just wondered what your basis for knowledge was in terms of...
I would say, yeah.
Okay. So do you think that it's possible then that people who might express a certain gender might carry some genetic information that would predispose them?
I don't think anything's more powerful than a man's mind. Our mental capacity far outweighs any. So a lot of homosexuality, people say, oh, that was bred. That's bred into them. If that was the case, they wouldn't have had no thought process. Oh, why should I do this? Should I this, that? There would be no thought process behind homosexuality, and there is, and there would be no reason to well, I can say there's no reason to defend it, but
how is that different than eye color? Because
how is homosexuality?
It's not something you could...
Because you can't say, hey, I want to have blue eyes.
That's what I'm saying. So how could people decide that they want to be homosexual then, if it's a genetic component?
Well, it's a decision. I mean, you have nobody just goes out and you know, whatever they do, but this is nobody just goes out and does it like a woman. When you're first attracted to a man, you got to come up with an answer. Why is this going? What's going on here? Boom, 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 boom. You know, all the little thought processes. It's not something that's natural, like when you're attracted to a woman.
So you're naturally attracted to women, so it's not a decision in that case.
No.
So
it's a product of nature.
So
I mean,
you don't think that a man can naturally be attracted to another man in the same way that you're attracted to a woman?
no, I think it's something you talk yourself into through what do you call it? Imagination. I can't think of fantasy and whatnot.
Well, I guess my question to you is like, why, given the fact that, you know, a lot of gay people face a lot of discrimination and difficulty and prejudice, why would anyone make that decision?
Because it's wrong. and it's just like somebody who makes a decision to do drugs, to speed in a car. I mean, there's things we do that we're inclined to do because we have a sinful nature. We lust after things that we shouldn't be lusting after. We lust after women. That's a sin. When you're thinking carnal thoughts and it takes you away from your mission, which is to spread the gospel and I'm not saying in any way that I'm constantly on that mission. I'm not putting myself in that, but anything that takes you away from God, from the thought, from your thankfulness to God for giving you life, for giving you a chance to experience choice, free will, for giving you a chance to think out, to think abstract. You know, this is something that other animals don't have. You can't think, well, what happens if I do this? What happen? You know, an animal just acts. They doesn't think. A cat,
and they exhibit homosexual behavior sometimes.
Well, we've never seen that.
We have.
And if they did, they're spun out. There's something in the water, and they're confused or they're blind.
Bonobos. Ever Google bonobos?
No.
You should.
Bonobos.
Yeah.
Ape.
It's a primate.
Yeah. It's a primate. I'll look into that. But here's the thing: do they actually show this existing, or is it just a scientist said, yeah, that happens?
They greet each other with sex.
I'll have to look into that.
I thought you would, but that goes for male, female, and female. So that goes for pretty much everything humans do. They do.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's something I'll have to look into. I have never researched that.
Dolphins have gay behavior.
What is it when we have them both in a swimming pool and they're the only two in there?
No, they've been observed to do that in nature.
And there's proof of this. Is it just a scientist saying this? Because scientists say all sorts of stuff. You got Bill Nye.
Scientists don't say just anything.
Well, pretty much they do. Look at Bill Nye. Have you seen? I know he's not a scientist, but everybody believes he is. They call him the science guy. Yeah. This guy in the 80s was telling you that a woman was different from a man. The XY chromosomes. Now today, he's telling you, as a spokesman for science, that there's more than one gender. If you want to be a woman, be a woman. If you want to be a man, woman,
it's not what you want.
16
it's not what you want to be. It's what you are, and there's a big difference between that.
Okay, well, but back to the confusion. What started this? Man is more confused today than we've ever been confused in our entire life, and the Bible talked about that. Said there will come a time in Revelations. There will come a time. I'm trying to remember the chapter, but there will come a time where confusion will ruin man, will rule the earth. And that spirit of confusion is upon us today. We're about to go to war. Go ahead.
If there's that confusion, and you know God has the ability to set it straight, then why do you think that God refrains from doing so?
Because God will when He ends this earth. When
but why
Jesus
let it continue like this?
Well, because he's given he's set a certain time. We don't know what that time is, but he set a day, and that's when he's not going to change his mind and say, "Oh man, they're getting out of hand." The last time he did that, he covered the earth in water. Save us. That was to save humanity from what was being created by the angels, by the fallen angels. Your dinosaurs, your giants, and etc. Pterodactyls, whatever.
Where are they mentioned in the Bible?
Well, they're mentioned as monsters, hybrids, Nephilim. And see, that's again, if nature is, how did nature get so, I don't know if what word I want to use. Why didn't nature just start over and recreate dinosaurs? How did it get so,
because nature doesn't
how many variables?
Nature doesn't create.
Or variants, huh?
Nature doesn't create. There's no thought behind it. There's no intelligence behind it.
But it sure it just appears intelligent, right? Because we wouldn't be able to develop a science. We wouldn't be able to develop a science if there was no knowledge behind nature. If there wasn't an intelligent design that we could follow. If everything was just chaotic, we wouldn't be able to. We would have no science.
How do you define science?
Knowledge.
Okay.
Knowledge of nature, knowledge of how things work. I just say knowledge because that's my first answer.
Okay. So we gain that knowledge by going about the scientific method, which is, something that we developed to try to understand the world. But you think that there had to be some, you think God somehow handed down science to, I guess I need a little clarification on that.
No, the fact that we can develop a science of nature, of animals, of the ocean, of space, of the earth, everything, that means that there was an intelligent design. There's a design that we can follow. You see, things didn't just happen. We can come up with, we know why, we know how fast light being constant. Light was the first thing God created. If you say
what is the design we can follow?
The design, this is design that science. I mean, I can't explain the the designs of all that because I'm not a scientist.
No, but you're making the claim that you say there's design you can follow. What design do you follow? And where does it lead you?
Physics. Basic physics.
Yeah.
Okay. Quantum mechanics has a design, but I ain't going to explain that.
Those are man-made. We were talking about.
Those are man-made descriptions of what God has done.
We were talking about evolution, and then you said there's design we can follow. So what design can we follow?
Okay, DNA. We can follow the design of DNA.
Yes, and we know DNA wasn't designed, and we know how it came to be.
We know how it came to be.
Yes.
So do I know how it came to be. But let's go back to the creation.
No, you don't.
Life.
No, you don't.
You had said something I wanted to.
Because you're going to tell us that God made DNA, but that's not where DNA came from.
Well, but see, there's no way we can prove either side. So
yes,
let's go back to
yes, we can.
Well, let's go back to
okay.
How can we prove that?
Because
we know that God didn't create DNA. We know for a fact God didn't create DNA.
DNA came from RNA.
Sorry, Peter. If God created DNA, then why doesn't it function perfectly all of the time?
Well, it used to function perfectly all the time. Man used to live 500 years. Now we started eating pork. We started eating shrimp. We started eating shellfish. We all the stuff that God for a reason. He didn't just say he didn't like shellfish, so don't eat shellfish. He said it for a reason. If you look at all those animals that God said don't eat, they're cannibals. They eat their own flesh. There's a whole bunch of different. A pig doesn't sweat. A pig doesn't sweat out its. So you're eating all the junk, all the poisons that pig's eating and carries in its body. You're eating that when you eat bacon. You're eating that when you eat pork chops.
So theoretically, if our diets were different, then we would have no illness.
No, yeah, we wouldn't have no illness. If our diets, if we cut all that out, yeah, we'd have no illness.
Because I got to tell you, I'm a vegetarian, and I know that there are a lot of vegetarians in the world, and you know, some of those people, unfortunately, you know, are dealing with some chronic illness. Do you think there's any other factors at play there?
Yeah, the elite is poisoning us. Your organic vegetables that you eat, they're not organic. They're not organic as you would define organic. You go into I look at a lot of the ingredients in organic cookies and organic this and that, whatever, and they're not organic. They may have one organic, they may have made a chocolate chip cookie out of organic chocolate. The cookie is loaded with all sorts of stuff. High fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup than everything. Well, it used to be, it's not no more. But that was a poison. That was banned in most countries but America. And now America has gotten it. They've got it in Mexico, where it's banned or it's getting ran out of America. Now it's entering into Mexico. There's a reason for this, because there's still hybrid humans on Earth that are leading mankind. And that may sound, we won't go totally into that conversation, but take for instance the now this has become true, where it used to be a conspiracy, the chemtrails. Now they're talking about it on the news today, and it's now, you know, yeah, they're dropping aluminum chips in the air, and I'm not sure exactly the whole what exactly it is, but that was my quick summary of it. But this is now common knowledge. It's not a conspiracy at all.
I respectfully disagree on the common knowledge. I mean, I do think that they address things on the news that are showing up in social media, that kind of thing. Do you know what the significance of aluminum chip? I mean, we pretty commonly interact with aluminum in the world.
I actually work in an aluminum plant.
Right. So what would be the purpose of, you know, raining that on? Like, what benefit would there be to that?
It causes aluminum's not a healthy metal. If you try to cook water with aluminum and you drink it, you're going to go blind. So it's not a healthy metal. It's not something that we can consume regularly. But if you've got these, and I'm not sure exactly what it's, I didn't really follow it because I don't follow a lot of those stories either. But when I saw it on the news there, I was like, damn. And they're talking about doing that to like, look at your not every plane. So, I mean, if you start paying attention, it's not every plane shoots that has these chemtrails. And when you look at these chemtrails for a couple of hours after they were formed, they're forming clouds. So they're doing something with the weather. There's no doubt about it. If you look at the weather today, now all over the world, we're coming to some very momentous changes in weather, and it has nothing to do with the global warming. It has to do with the things we're doing on the earth. Not everybody, but a select few. Yeah. I just say the elite because I don't know what else to call them.
Daniel, can we? I think that the chemtrail discussion is going to be a little bit bigger than our time constraints today. So maybe can we put that on hold and come back to that?
Yeah, there's actually something I did want to go back to, and it was something you guys brought up about the expansion. Okay, so now back to the expansion. You said expansion came before light, right?
We do think initially there was an expansion prior to the Big Bang. Yes.
So is expansion eternal? Something had to expand.
Well, I mean, as Peter was saying, there are certain things that we don't have the capability to test for yet. We do have theories. What is, I guess I'm not sure what your question.
Okay, well, what I'm saying is, do you believe that anything is eternal? And if you believe expansion came before time and space, then the expansion has to transcend time, which is the description of God. God transcends time. God made time.
Well, there's a little snag with that. So, do you think that God is outside of time and space?
Yeah.
Do you know what that entails?
No. The heavenly realm.
Well, if he's outside of time and space, then he exists for 0 seconds, and he has no mass, no. There's no entity at all.
Which is why we can't say this is God, much like gravity.
Which is pretty much the description of something that doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist it exists because
if God is outside
the word. We have the word.
If God is outside of time, then he can't be eternal.
Well, yes, he can transcend time. And I'm not sure. I'm not going to go. It doesn't say in the Bible God created time. It says in the beginning.
No, you need time. Light. You need time to be eternal. If there is no time, there's no existence.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm going to have to think about that one. But let's go back to you have to. No, there's. I'm not as again. The fact that you're coming up with a expansion. What expanded? What did it expand into? A void? Because the Bible does talk about God hung over the waters, the void waters, when he created light.
That's what we don't know. We call it the cosmos, but we don't know what the cosmos is because we can't investigate outside of our own universe.
Well, we can't even go to the moon anymore.
Sure, we can go to the moon.
No, the NASA says they lost the technology.
And they can get to Mars, but they cannot get to the moon, you think?
They can get man to the moon. They've already said they've lost the technology.
I think they're having more of a funding issue.
That actually came from a NASA scientist.
Well, I think that's more of a funding issue rather than a,
No, that's not how he explained it. They asked him, why don't we go to the moon today? And he said, well, that's it sounds, or I don't remember exactly how he said it. He was embarrassed by it, or he acted like he was embarrassed by it. And he said, you lost the technology.
I believe, and again, I'm not 100% sure the story you're referring to, but I think that particular issue had more to do with the money aspect of it. Daniel, would you be open to going back to a subject that you kind of brought up before we talked when we were talking before the chat regarding like the monsters, the hybrid humans, the hybrid dinosaurs? Can you expand a little bit more on that?
Yeah. What do you? Okay.
Well, I guess it's kind of a newer concept for a lot of us, I think, and if you could. I guess I'm a little confused as to the significance. Like, when did these beings supposedly, come about in relation to humanity, and what was their role?
Okay, that there was a time when God hung over there was a time when the angels were on earth before man. I'm not sure exactly the whole. I mean, I'm kind of researching that now. In the Old Testament, it talks about God hung over the ruins of just. I'd have to go back on that. I have to go back and read that. But there was a time when the angels came down. After man came down, the fallen angels were already here, because all that happened. Satan had to go back up into Eden, and convince man, Eve, or convince Eve to eat from the tree of life.
So they were created before Adam and Eve? I'm just trying to get a timeline here.
Okay, timeline. Let's go. The Nephilim and the hybrids had to have happened after man came to Earth. Whatever happened when at some point early when man was still on Earth, say maybe the first 1,000 years, 1 to 3,000 years ago. I mean, the first 1 to 3,000 years. That's when the angels came down, and I like I said, I'm not. Don't hold me my interpretation of what I've read so far.
Okay.
But he came down, and the angels came down, mated with, saw the women were beautiful, mated with them, and created the hybrids.
Okay.
The animals he created. Now,
If that's true, Daniel, then shouldn't that be something that we can test for? Shouldn't that show up in our DNA?
And I'm not sure that it hasn't.
So you think that there's still remnants of this existent in the human race now? Or do you think that these creatures all died out?
God destroyed the Nephilim, but apparently they have risen again, and I'm not sure I haven't really, like I said, that's something I'm just now researching. Actually, those axes in Denmark, after knowing the story of Asatru, Odinism, Thor, all these other giants who created religions. Krishna was a giant. Brahma was a giant.
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't.
Yeah, they were. Yes, they were. I'll give you a description of Brahma was. How else would he have shot an arrow? Obama? What was that? No, Brahma.
Obama was a giant? Oh, Brahma.
Brahman. I'm sorry. I'll say, yeah, Brahman. I can't remember.
I don't think that I'm qualified to talk about that. But they're also, I think, not in the Bible, and I'd like to stick to Christianity for this one, because going off on other religions, then I'll have to do a little bit more research so I know what I'm talking about.
Well, see, you're in Holland, right?
Yes.
Are there fables of myths of giants in Holland?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Just in Denmark and all around Holland.
And not in Denmark either, as far as
I'm aware. Is in Denmark they've talked about giants. That what's the axe? I can't think of the axeman, the giant axeman. I just read about it.
Where did you read? Where did you? Wait over the world. Wait a minute. Where did you read about it?
On the internet.
Yeah, okay.
But I research. I go on. I research. I know what's not true and what's true. I know how to follow that.
How do we make that distinction?
Well, a lot of times I'll go through Scientific American. I'll go through if it's something more related to physics or time or anything that I'm researching at that time. I'll look at the Smithsonian, which I don't believe anything they say anyway, but I'll read it just
so now we have a claim. You say you don't believe what the Smithsonian says.
No.
So how did you check that it wasn't true?
Well, they hide too much stuff. Anytime you have a warehouse that's designated as a place they keep hidden, that they keep stuff that the rest of the world can't see, well, you're hiding stuff. Why would you hide it?
Every museum has that, because they don't have the space to display everything they have. We have millions of fossils alone. That would need so much room to display everything, and it wouldn't be necessary if you have for instance the skeleton of Lucy. I think you're aware of Lucy. Okay, there are thousands of skeletons from that species alone.
Yeah, but not one of them is complete. Most of them are made by people who form the bones.
No. Not all of them are complete, but we have complete skeletons of that species.
Yeah,
we
well,
have every single bone of that species, and we already had close to that when they found Lucy.
But Lucy isn't a man. Lucy's an ape.
No, she's a transitional species between ape and man.
So when did nature decide that, hey, I can create a better man? We're going to kill off this Lucy and create man.
It doesn't decide.
It just happened like that.
Evolution works. If I have to say it very bluntly, it's the animal or the living being. Let's take it as that is best fitted for the environment it is in survives, and that's how species develop, because the environment changes, and so the species have to change as well.
Why does man need to think abstractly? Isn't that a waste of calories? How does nature let man be the only animal that can waste countless calories thinking?
How do you know
we're an advantage?
Huh? It gives us an
advantage.
How does it give us an advantage? It doesn't help us eat. It doesn't help us. It doesn't give us an advantage. We're about to go to war.
It helps us problem solve.
Are you wearing clothes right now?
Yeah.
Are you sitting in a house?
Mm-hmm.
Are you using a computer right now to talk to us?
Yeah. But see,
okay. Do you have supermarkets where you buy your food?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a car?
But see, that's culture. That's that God gave us that power. Here's the thing.
That's not
if
culture.
Nature was working. Why did nature?
No. That's not culture. That's all of that is a product of the human brain. God didn't have a hand. God didn't have a hand in this. God can. And I can tell you why. Because God can do everything according to the Bible.
But here's the thing.
Except for one tiny little thing.
What?
Everything a man can do, God cannot do.
No, it's not that. God gave man the power to do that.
God couldn't even write a Bible. He had to use men to write the Bible.
Because if God came down and wrote the Bible himself, the world would probably be destroyed. You can't. God is a power that we as humans can't.
Haven't you read the Bible?
Turn Moses white.
Wait a minute. Haven't you read the Bible?
Yes, I've read the Bible.
Okay. Have you heard of Adam and Eve? Yes,
I've read them. Well, they were in Eden back then.
Yes. Who did they talk to?
They during the first fall, we were a lot more. We had just came from Eden.
That's not what I asked. I asked who did they talk to?
God. They were in Eden at the time, though. They were.
Where was God?
We don't know what they were made of.
Where was God?
Here's God was in heaven.
No,
we don't know where Eden was.
No, he wasn't. You haven't read the Bible. You haven't read the Bible, have you?
Well, okay, he was. It doesn't really say where he was in Eden, walking in Eden with.
He was walking. He was walking with Adam and Eve.
Yeah,
and there are a lot more. And there are a lot more instances after the fall where people walked with God.
No, just Moses. Enoch was taken up into heaven. Moses turned. It almost killed him. Almost destroyed him.
I'll have to look for the verses, but there are a lot.
And I believe Moses didn't.
There are a lot of verses that speak of God walking among men. There's even a verse where God cheats at wrestling. So he's
not an angel. That's an angel that wrestled with Jacob.
No, you haven't read the Bible.
Yes, God never wrestled with man. It was an angel that wrestled.
I'll look up the verse for you because it's actually in the Bible. It's not an angel, it is God.
And God, when it says God walked with him, God
Yes.
didn't come down and show himself to man. God only showed
After the
himself to
after
Moses,
the
and he made
fall,
Moses turn around.
after the fall, God also walked with Satan. So that gives
He
us an
talked
idea.
with Satan.
He walked with Satan.
Well, it says he talked with Satan.
No, it says he
You're
walked.
like thinking of
No,
Isaiah
it says
or
he
Job.
walked, and that
Job
gives.
actually Satan
And
approached
wait a minute,
God.
Daniel, please let me finish before
All right.
you react. God walked with Satan. They both walked, which
Well,
brings
Satan
us,
was, or
which brings
Lucifer
us,
was.
which brings us back to Genesis, and
Mhm.
tells us that if God later on walked with Satan, then Satan wasn't the snake in Eden. We
Well,
got
oh, go ahead.
so. I kind of lost my train of thought a little. What I was saying is that God can't do anything that humans can do.
Yeah, I don't really know how to answer that but I'm going to say this: God doesn't need to come down and mow a lawn, set up a store, do this. That's not God's intention. That's a human function.
He could have made a
God
better
doesn't.
Bible.
It would be like you saying, "Hey, I'm going to go drink some water from that dog's dish because I'm thirsty." Instead, you ain't even going to think about that. You're going to go get water from a sink because you can. I mean, I don't know how God thinks. Although apart from what it says in the Bible, that he's love, he's compassionate, he's a giver of salvation,
Daniel,
he's forgiving, but we don't know that. Oh, go
no,
ahead.
I'm sorry, finish. I apologize.
Oh no, I lost my train of thought. So
I apologize.
right.
I guess I think something that a lot of people have trouble with is when you're saying God is love, God is compassion. We're looking around at a world that's, as you say, in chaos, and there's a lot of ugliness and suffering. How do you reconcile that with
Well,
the
that's why
God that
God's
you
going
believe
to end
in?
it soon. That's why God's going to come and take His people, and those who choose, hey, I want to be I'm yours. Those who have made that declaration before Jesus comes are going to be saved. They're going to receive salvation. Uh, uh, God, the stories of Him killing the Raphaim, those were all Nephilim. Those were giants, and God describes them. We have bones of six-fingered humanoids, but nobody shows those like they show a Tyrannosaurus Rex or caveman. But a lot of those bones that you see are
Daniel,
they only found like a femur bone.
Daniel,
Hmm?
wanna
Yeah.
laugh? I have a friend who has 6 toes on every foot.
Well, there may be something
So
to that.
I have a live specimen of that.
Well,
Living,
no, the Bible
living.
talks about it.
No,
But
That would
why?
be interesting. You know what? If I was, if it would be interesting to see his genetic makeup, and God forbid it's anything, but a malfunction due to diet and whatnot and lack of prayer.
But why would this God of compassion? I mean, you say He's going to end it soon and take His people. If God is truly compassionate and loving, would you agree that love is unconditional love isn't dependent on the response of the other?
Yeah.
So shouldn't God
But
be
see, here's the
taking
thing.
all people regardless of whether
A lot
they
of
worship Him?
Well, now here's the thing. He's going to let the people who are perfected in spirit into heaven. You can't let that would be like throwing oil in clear water. You can't take somebody who's demented, who's perverted, who's sick in the head, and you can put them in heaven, because then you're going to have the same world that we have down here, a world of chaos.
Okay, but I'm
going
an
into chaos.
atheist, and I would argue that I am none of those things. but I'm also not going to, I'm not going to bow down and worship God. So how do you categorize that?
Have you ever lied before?
Of course.
Okay. Liars don't get into heaven because then you don't have truth. Heaven is a place of truth.
Have you lied?
Of course I have.
So how is that different?
I'm not saying, but because I'm remorseful for it. I would lie to myself more than anybody. The only reason I didn't lie to people is because I don't like to, and I'm sure I have. When I'm angry, I'll say something but I don't go tell stories because I would never want to be in that because of pride. I don't want to ever be caught in a lie.
So if an atheist is remorseful because they've caused harm to another human being, then that is not equivalent to the remorse that you have based on making God.
I don't know the mind of God, but here's the thing: is if you don't get into heaven, God isn't in hell torturing anybody. God has given you every way to get through that gate. He's done everything he could. And when the word didn't work, he gave his only begotten Son, and to give us salvation from sin. Because once we've gotten into sinful nature, if you look at the development of sin throughout time, after God destroyed the original sins, Sodom, Gomorrah, and whatnot, and the earth eventually, we're falling right back into that, and things are getting worse today. If you go on the news, and I know you've had to have seen this, they're starting to say, in fact, it's an article in Teen Vogue that tells girls how to, and I've only seen it on YouTube. I haven't read the article because I have no reason. No, I believe it exists because they've showed the cover and whatnot. I haven't researched it though. But they show a woman or a little girl, how to have butt sex. I don't know what else to call it. Sorry.
Well, Daniel, I guess back to the what I was saying just a little bit. So if you basically what you're saying is your rationale was that God can't have depraved people in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
However,
because depravity just gets worse and worse and worse. Okay. Depravity doesn't.
But as an atheist, if I undergo every moral, equivalent to a Christian, but without the imperative that comes from God, would you agree that if that is the case, then I refuse to bow down before God, that there are going to be essentially good people who end up in hell?
But you're prideful. Why wouldn't you bow down to the God who gave you life, the God who loves you, who wrote a love story for you?
If he loves us, then
why wouldn't you?
If he loves us, why send us to hell?
He's not sending you to hell. He's trying to get you into heaven. God isn't in hell.
But if God can do anything, then why wouldn't he prevent us from going to hell?
Because there's a reason you can't go into heaven when he makes a new earth, and there's not going to be any sin. And if you're still holding on to sin, your soul is blackened by sin. We can receive a clean soul, a clean spirit by accepting Jesus Christ as our perfect sacrifice.
So there's no free will in heaven?
Well, I'm sure there is. I don't know. I've never been to heaven.
If there is, wouldn't there be sin in heaven?
No, there's not. Why would you sin? Why? What good has come from?
Why do people sin? Why do people sin now?
Because Satan. Because there's Satan. The spirits rule this earth are fallen angels. They have nowhere else to go. They can't go to hell or heaven because a lot of the fallen angels are the Nephilim. I mean, the offspring of they're stuck on this earth. They have nowhere else. There's nothing designated for them.
Are there emotions in heaven? Do you still have emotions when you go to heaven?
Well, yeah, but I mean, I don't really know. I can't discuss heaven because I don't know what heaven's like. I know heaven's a paradise; it's eternal paradise.
How do you know this? How do you know this?
Because God said. Because I trust God's word, and God describes it in the Bible.
People described it in the Bible.
I can imagine what heaven's like, but I know that's not going to be anything like anything I can imagine now. It'd be like imagining quantum mechanics, or not quantum mechanics, but imagining that. I don't know enough about quantum mechanics. I couldn't imagine it.
Okay. Well, I'm just looking at the clock. I have to. I have a new co-host, and I have to be a little bit courteous towards her. She has to work tomorrow, and
Yeah, so do I. I got to get up at 3 o'clock.
yeah. Well, for me, it's 6:45 a.m. So
Yeah, always. Well,
yeah.
we can, if you want to continue this at another day. I'm off Tuesday and Wednesday.
Well,
I'll come a little more prepared. I will study the stuff that I couldn't answer when you were. I'll pray, and I'll go into research.
I'll be glad to have you on again with it. And I usually say that my guest gets to pick the topic for the follow-up talk, but we'll have to keep time in mind, because, as I said, Molly works. So if we want Molly to join again, which I think would be the logical thing to do, then we'll have to take into consideration the time that Molly has
I enjoy
on this channel.
You're right. Yeah, you're right.
Sorry?
We'll
I
be in
said you're
touch,
right.
Daniel.
Yeah. What's that?
We'll be in touch, Daniel.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
enjoyed this conversation. I hope you guys did too.
Yes, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. It went a little bit better than our first one, didn't it?
Yeah, well,
Daniel?
that was my first time ever doing that. So.
Yeah, but the tone was a little bit different as well.
Oh yeah.
So,
yeah.
okay, so I want to thank the people in the chat. We have a couple of fans that are almost always there, so good to see those in the chat as well. I've enjoyed this talk, and I'm curious about what there's more to talk about. So we'll get in touch with you, and we'll plan another date to make a follow-up on this one.
Okay, that sounds great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you,
God
Daniel.
bless y'all. Yep. Thank you.
Okay. For the people who haven't followed us yet, please subscribe, and you can follow us on Twitter as well. I'll make sure to put the appropriate links in the description where you can find all three of us. So
Yeah, I'll get on her. I got you already. I follow you, so I'll get on Molly.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll follow you too, so I get your.
Okay.
So we can get in the same conversations on Twitter. All right. Again,
Thank you.
Grace.
Well,
yeah, thank you.
thanks all, and see you all next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.